Hey guys, it's Athena here with Rooted Tanks at rootedtanks.com. Today I want to share with you another plant spotlight, the Aponogeton Ulvaceus. But first, feel free to check out the website. We've got quite a few aquarium plants for you to choose from with more on the way. And then we also have a Facebook page where you can find all the up-to-date stuff with Rooted Tanks. All the links will be down in the description. Feel free to subscribe, like, and share this video, and we'll get started. So the Aponogeton Ulvaceus is a very unique type of plant. It is a bulb plant. So this right here on the plant is going to be the bulb. When you receive this plant in the mail, make sure that you plant it about 50%. That way it keeps the top portion of the bulb out and exposed so that it can breathe and also be able to take up any nutrients, extra nutrients that it might need to, but more importantly that it needs to breathe. If you plant the bulb too deep, you can risk damaging it, leading to it ultimately dying. This plant makes a wonderful plant for your beginner to intermediate style aquarist, and it does best in established aquariums versus a brand new aquarium. So the older the aquarium is, the better off you'll be with an Ulvaceus. I would give it maybe a couple weeks to a month before you go ahead and add one of these plants to make sure there aren't any significant changes within your water parameters. But otherwise, it's a fairly undemanding plant. It does require, I would say, more of a moderate type lighting versus a low lighting, but it can do well in low to moderate light settings. Root tabs will also help this plant do well, as it is a heavy root feeder. You'll want to place the root tabs surrounding, maybe one or two kind of surrounding the bulb of this plant, and replacing those every few months or so. That way the plant can absorb as many nutrients as it needs to be able to sustain these long, beautiful leaves here. It makes a very beautiful centerpiece given its leaf shape, and then also with how big that it can get. Larger aquariums are better for this plant, again, because of how big it gets. It can feel very cramped in a small 10-gallon, for instance. If you ever want to propagate this plant, there is an interesting feature that this bulb can grow another offshoot off the side of the plant. You can take that little offshoot with its roots, make sure that it comes off with its roots. You can take it off as close to the base of the bulb as possible, and you can plant that in another aquarium or anywhere else within the aquarium. If you notice any damaged leaves on this plant, so for instance, we'll use this one as an example, just has some kind of tears, maybe a couple holes there, just some browning right there. If you ever need to trim this plant back, you'll want to make sure that you trim it as close to the base of the bulb as possible. That way it allows the plant to use those excess nutrients and give them to the rest of the plant, versus if you cut the stem too long, it will force nutrients up the rest of that stem even if there is no leaf. Like other Aponogeton plants, the Ulvaceus can grow a stem that will have what looks like a little spike at the very tip of it, and that is actually going to be a flower. And what's really cool is when those actually you get to see those bloom. Another note with the Aponogetons, you'll notice that sometimes it'll go through a dormant phase. Most Aponogetons come from Madagascar, and they go through what's called the wet and dry season. As it goes through the dry season, the leaves all dry up, the plant bulb is now having to keep its nutrients in that bulb so that when the wet season comes again, it can start growing out new leaves. In the aquarium, since it's always wet, it tends to kind of decide when it wants to go into that dormant phase on its own. It can last for a couple days, couple weeks, even a couple months. Just give it some time. Make sure as long as you plant it properly and don't fully submerge that bulb within the substrate, it will help make sure that that plant doesn't suffocate, and then it can come back when it's ready. So again, with the Aponogeton Ulvaceus, it makes a really great background plant. Does well in established fish tanks, can be good for beginner to intermediate plant keepers, and make sure again that you plant that bulb about 50% within that substrate to prevent any issues with suffocating the bulb. Root tabs make a really good fertilizer for the plants, otherwise using high nutrient substrates could also work. Thanks again for tuning in. I really do appreciate your time. We'll have more of these coming down in the future. Again, check out the website, follow us on Facebook, and follow us on YouTube. We'll be adding more of these. All the links are down in the description. Until next time, stay safe.